Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Padajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Padajana Ranjana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parujikacharya Ashtotar Tadashi Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parujikacharya Ashtotar Tadashi Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavin Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktabinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Narayana Namaskritya Narang Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Hadiriyet Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Daridra-nārāyaṇa Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashta prahesha badreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavatyuttama shloke bhaktim bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering devotional service to the pure devotee, all that is inauspicious within the heart is destroyed almost to nil, and loving devotion to the Supreme Lord, who is glorified in transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. So, okay. Did I do Om Namo? I don't think I did. I didn't do Om Namo. No. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 18th day of September 2023 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Canto 6, Prescribed Duties for Mankind, Chapter 19, Performing the Punksavana Ritualistic Ceremony, text number 7. Now, there's no verse, this is a prose. So I'll just chant it myself. Om Namo Bhagavate Mahapurushaya Mahanubhavaya Mahavabhuti Pataye Sahamahavabhuti Bir Balim Upaharamiti Anenahar Ahar Mantrena Viṣṇu Avahanargya Padyopasparshana Snana Vasa Upavita Vibhushana Gandha Pushpa Dhupa Dipopaharaj Pacharan Susama Hitopaharet. Excuse me, Hitopaharet. Some of you may recognize there's a lot of items from deity worship there. And that's what this verse is all about. So this is a prayer. This is a shloka that one should chant when performing this Punksavana ceremony. My dear Lord Viṣṇu, full in 6 opulences, you are the best of all enjoyers and the most powerful, O husband of Mother Lakshmi. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you, who are accompanied by many associates, such as Vishvaksena. I offer all the paraphernalia for worshipping you. Close quote. One should chant this mantra every day with this is all part of the translation. One should chant this mantra every day with great attention while worshipping Lord Viṣṇu with all paraphernalia, such as water for washing his feet, hands and mouth, and water for his bath. One must offer him various presentations for his worship, such as garments, a sacred thread, ornaments, scents, flowers, incense, and lamps. That's the translation. Purport. This mantra is very important. Anyone engaged in deity worship should chant this mantra, as quoted above, beginning with Om Namo Bhagavate Mahapurushaya. Now, I don't know if you do that, but that's what it says here. I'm going to keep going. Text 8. Just a translation. Shukadeva Goswami continued, after worshipping the Lord with all the paraphernalia mentioned above, one should chant the following mantra while offering 12 oblations of ghee on the sacred fire. Now you may recognize this if you listen carefully before. Om Namo Bhagavate Mahapurushaya Mahavabhuti Pataye Swaha. So this is the original mantra with just the addition of Swaha. No purport. Translation. If one desires all opulences, his duty is to daily worship Lord Viṣṇu with his wife, Lakshmi. With great devotion, one should worship him according to the above-mentioned process. Lord Viṣṇu and the Goddess of Fortune are an immensely powerful combination. They are the bestowers of all benedictions and the sources of all good fortune. Therefore, the duty of everyone is to worship Lakshmi Narayan. Purport. Lakshmi Narayan, Lord Viṣṇu and Mother Lakshmi, are always situated in everyone's heart. Ishwarak Sarvabhutanam Viddesher Janatishtati. However, because non-devotees do not realize that Lord Viṣṇu stays with his eternal consort Lakshmi within the hearts of all living entities, they are not endowed with the opulence of Lord Viṣṇu. Unscrupulous men sometimes address a poor man as daridra-nārāyaṇa, or poor Narayan. This is most unscientific. Lord Vishnu and Lakshmi are always situated in everyone's heart, but this does not mean that everyone is Narayan, especially not those in poverty. This is the most abominable term to use in connection with Narayan. Narayan never becomes poor, and therefore he can never be called daridra-nārāyaṇa. Narayan is certainly situated in everyone's heart, but he is neither poor nor rich. Only unscrupulous persons who do not know the opulence of Narayan try to afflict him with poverty. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya. Chakshu Unmidatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. Now, I promised you last class that I would chant the other verse that Chitraketu chanted, prayer, that begins in the same way. This is 3 times we have this here, so I queued that up. And it has a different focus. It's not about deity worship or anything like that. Om Namo Bhagavate Mahapurushaya. This is text 25 of chapter 16 of this canto. Oh, and Chitraketu has got a darshan of Shankarshan, and he's offering these glorifications and prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Mahapurushaya Mahanubhavaya Mahavabhuti Pataye Sakala Sarvata Padavida Nikada Kadakamala Kudmalo Paladata Chadanada Vinda Yugala Padama Padameshtin Namaste. Which means, O Transcendental Lord, who are situated in the topmost planet of the spiritual world, your 2 lotus feet are always massaged by a multitude of the best devotees with their lotus bud-like hands. You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, complete in 6 opulences. You are the Supreme Person mentioned in Purusha Sukta prayers. You are the most perfect, self-realized Master of all mystic power. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto you. So, why are we hearing this? This is interesting. I mean, I don't know about you, but I thought, okay, the Pungsavana, that was the last chapter, and Diti was enjoined to do it for a year. She made some mistake, and therefore she didn't get the son who would kill Indra. Rather, she got the Maruts. Indra kind of overreacted, and he got in the womb somehow and chopped the first one up to 7, and then 7, so he had 49. And they said, "What are you doing? You know, we're your friends." And so Indra finally came to, and then we have the Maruts. So, but now, you know, the Pungsavana ceremony or Pungsavana prayers are important for getting good progeny. This is the thing. And this prayer, which begins with the same words, now the one that Chitraketu chanted, he wasn't praying for any opulence, he wasn't praying for a good son, he was just glorifying the Lord and meditating on how his lotus feet were being massaged by these lotus bud-like hands of the beautiful devotees. That was all he wanted. He wasn't praying for anything, right? He wasn't praying for anything from the Lord. But this, what we're reading now, is a prayer that you say, well, and one of the verses was, if you want all opulences, then you do this. So these prayers here are, as far as I can tell, for Sakama devotees who are worshiping the deity, especially at home, and are hoping to have a successful home life and with a good progeny and all of this and that. Now, it's in the Bhagavatam, so it's important for householders. And I was thinking how Prabhupada so much stresses the idea of good progeny, right, as opposed to Varna Sankara. If you recall, in the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, this was a part of Arjuna's argument for not fighting. Is that I'll kill all these men, the women will be unprotected, and before you know it, we'll have Varna Sankara, and the whole place will go to hell. If you think about it, this is the problem, is that people are growing up with no guidance, with not even a whiff of spiritual training, and they're becoming demons. It's overrun by confused and violent people, and everyone can buy a gun in America. I mean, this is a reality. So Krishna consciousness is a personal discipline for succeeding in life and going back to Godhead. But as Prabhupada stressed so often, it is also a social program for peace and prosperity and everybody going back to Godhead. In other words, for everyone making progress in going back to Godhead. And that includes healthy families and proper maintenance, stressed on simple living, high thinking. But like we read about Yudhishthira and how when he was the king, after the whole battle of Kurukshetra, finally, and then the rain came at just the right amount, just the right time. It would rain at night. The cows were so happy they were pouring milk on the ground. In other words, all the demigods were in tune, and they were happy because the king was a pure Vaishnava. And so it rained for some time, but then Kali Yuga took over, and that's inevitable. But of course, we have Lord Chaitanya comes in Kali Yuga. Lord Krishna comes as Lord Chaitanya to give even the Kali Yugites a chance to progress spiritually and get this enlightenment through the Harinam Sankirtan. So what we're seeing here, there's an emphasis on this, and Prabhupada makes a point. Oh yes, all of the who's involved in deity worship should offer this prayer. So these are bona fide, but for us, for the vast mass of devotees who don't have to worry about getting on the altar and doing all that, and it's a very important service, the chanting of the holy name of Hare Krishna mantra is sufficient, more than sufficient. It's perfect for achieving all the perfection. And you see that the greatest devotees are the most renounced. They don't care a whiff about material facility. You can look at the 6 Goswamis, right? They're going to, I'm going to chant this mantra. No, they don't. I mean, they read this, and it's in the Bhagavatam, and it's important because the vast number of people are going to be householders, and therefore they need to have a way of worshiping the deity. The Prabhupada said, set up, have a room, and you have the deity. Anyone who's been to Gaur Keshava's house, we went to his program, and I went to his old place, and he had the same deities were there, a little smaller facility. But he and his other wonderful householders who are, have deities at their home, maybe simple, but it's there, and leading regulated lives according to the Shastra, and raising their children in devotional service. I don't know about you, I always get a kick out of seeing this Mukunda and Brinda come, growing, and developing Krishna consciousness. It's very enlivening. And that's the way it's meant to be. These mantras, certainly I don't remember reading this before, that all the pujaris should chant this. Did they chant it here? Yeah. Because I think Prabhupada didn't give it as part of it. I worked on this, some of you may know this Pancharatra Pradeep that we came out with. Yeah, this was I helped, worked with Krishna Chaitra Prabhu at the time. This is 25 years ago. And putting together this book as a standard for deity worship in ISKCON. And of course it's based on Narada Pancharatra. And there's a simple, basic thing you have, and then there's one, if you, as Hare Krishna at the time said, those who are madmen, who want to do as much as possible. There's also that available, more mantras, more things. Yeah. He's pointing to himself. So that the deity worship, the temple obviously is essential as a place to gather, to get the mercy of the deity, to get the prasadam, to get trained, to be able to have a place to hear. So the temples are very essential, and we're very fortunate to have some very dedicated pujaris here who keep this, Radha and Giridhari just looking blissfully at us. It's a little disconcerting when days on end we don't have vases, but I guess there's a reason for that, expensively, whatever, of the flowers. But so what we're reading now, and we're almost at the end of the chapter here, and I don't think there's that much. And this point here about the daridra-nārāyaṇa, this was, as far as I know, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, is this was a ploy to to push this idea that doing good for others, material welfare work, is as good as worshiping Narayan, right? But it's not. It's very important to do spiritual welfare work. That's what really counts. And you can see that Prabhupada did both. You know, he so much emphasized, Lord Chaitanya emphasized distribution of prasadam. I remember when I first went to Mayapur, you were here there as a child. Prabhupada, there's that famous incident where Jayapataka Maharaj is looking over and they had a whole pile of discarded plates and things with some prasadam on it. And there were some poor kids and things, you know, rummaging around, getting the dogs out of there so they could get some. And so Jayapataka said, sometimes I feel, you know, so empathetic for these people, you know. Prabhupada said, why only sometimes? You know, they should be always feeling. And so I think it's from out of that he started that main, that it's like an airplane hangar. Yeah. But then when I went, there was this major, you know, there was one big, it looked like almost an airplane hangar, you know, it was huge. And all poor people would come and sit, right? And they would have major, you know, kitri and distribution. Every day, was it, right? They would. Yeah. Huh? Now it's every day. So Prabhupada, you know, understood and I remember after Prabhupada's disappearance, you know, I was in Mayapur right after that. And they had, you know, the distribution of prasad, but it was a special feast. There were pakoras, there were samosas, you know, for all the poor people, and they were just like in ecstasy. You know, they hadn't tasted that probably in years, you know. And it was just a wonderful experience. So that's an important part of our preaching, is the distribution of prasad, the Sunday feast, and, you know, other venues to do that. And that's where, you know, you're poor or rich. You know, probably not just to the poor. The rich are also poor in spiritual life. They also need prasadam. They also need kirtan and everything. But not this daridra-nārāyaṇa. That's completely fallacious. That's a great offense to say that somehow Narayan becomes poor and he needs us to go and feed him. You know, it's just a propaganda ploy. You know, which is very offensive. So you hear Prabhupada, you know, the lectures, and he oftentimes attacks that idea. It's not that we're feeding Narayan when you give prasadam. You're feeding a living entity who needs to learn about Narayan, how merciful Narayan is, that he arranges his devotees to give you, you know, some prasadam. And hopefully, you know, get interested in the philosophy behind it, and, you know, become. I mean, I remember when I was first coming to the temple, there was one devotee, some of you may know, I know you probably know, Gadagwaja. You knew Gadagwaja. And he was there, and he was part of the BBT. He was a gopher. He would always go and buy things, you know, that they needed and everything. But he was part of the whole, it wasn't BBT, it was this kind of press. But I started visiting, and he took it upon himself to invite me down to the prasadam hall and give me some prasadam. And while I'm eating a little kitri, he's, you know, preaching to me. So it was one of the things that was attractive, you know, an important part of it, obviously. And, you know, when I joined, I, of course, you know, participated in all of that distribution of prasad and harinam. And that's the way we reach out to the people, you know, with spiritual things. They may not know they're spiritual, you know, for them it's food, but it's potent. It's transcendental. It's offered, it's prepared, you know, with devotion. And so that's how we help the poor people and the rich people also. But only unscrupulous persons who do not know the opulence of Narayan try to afflict him with poverty. Now Prabhupada also says in here, I don't know if I read it, maybe it was another purport, that it's dangerous, it's very dangerous to try to keep Lakshmi in your home without Narayan. That's the demons, right? That's Ravana. Is try to simply accumulate wealth and do all kind of nefarious things, illegal maybe, so that you can have, you know, the service of Lakshmi. You know, we call it Lakshmi, the money. But that's how you that's bad karma. You know, then you get, even the money itself becomes a means by which you commit more sin, isn't it? And if you lose it, you go nuts, you know, and it's devastating. But look at the ideal that we have in the society, as simple living as possible. The six Goswamis, Srila Prabhupada showed by his own life. And if you have Krishna, if you have the treasure of prema dhana, then you don't care You're ready to live it, like the less the better, even less sleep. I heard Prabhupada saying we should try to decrease the sleep. I heard a lecture, so that because it's a waste of time, but get sufficient to maintain your health. He was very concerned about that. So, that absence of this desperation to get some money so you can live in this society. If you're living simply, you're satisfied with little, and then you're living together, which also helps, you can support each other, then you don't need so much, right? You don't need so much. How much do you need for clothes? The wardrobe, $20 a year maximum, right? You buy the clothes. So much money spent on clothes. People in the bodily concept of life, thousands and thousands of dollars. Oh wait, he's got a fancy kurta there. It must be $5. So, but does anyone really miss it? I mean, it's a big relief. Of course, I was never a clothes horse, so to speak. Even with the Karmi. But the point is, it's such a relief to be out of that, and to be able to take pleasure in chanting the holy name and hearing and chanting and serving the Lord, coming together, kirtan. That's such a gift Prabhupada gave. There's no comparison to it. I mean, it's just transcendental, and it's a scientific principle. And this, Punksavana, it's filled with worship of Narayan. But the motivation may be, okay, may I have, like it was for Didi, because she wanted to have someone, a son to kill Indra. That's demonic. But she had, the Maruts, ultimately, because her process of doing the Punksavana festival purified her. It's filled with worship of Narayan, So the idea is that even if you're a householder, you can become detached. You can be minimally attached. You have to be attached somewhat. But you're working toward raising children who are devotees. Your house is meant to be a temple. And your goal in life is not some material thing, but it's to gain love for Krishna and go back to Godhead and help as many people as possible. And then you can be satisfied with minimal, if you're in a community especially, you can. So that was Prabhupada's idea. And of course, he wanted the farm communities, that could show how you can be prosperous just by the land and cows, depending on the land and cows. Farm communities are difficult to maintain because the outside world seeps in. I told you this story. I'm not going to name any names, but we had a gurukul, at the farm community for a long time. But then. And you had boys and you had girls, and of course the boys were taught by, a male teacher. The girls were taught mostly by, and so, but then, they're growing up, 12, 13, 14, and then the cell phones come in, and everyone has to have a cell phone. You can't control, what they're going to do, leading at night, and it's texting with some other boys, And they had to close down the school, because you can't just say, well, suddenly once you have the cell phone, to take the cell phone away, it's a major crisis. So that is a big thing. I remember when I joined, I didn't even know what the news was for 2 years. There was a big oil crisis. This was like early 70, 73. I don't know if you know the history, there was OPEC was started, And the only thing I knew about it is that we couldn't get gasoline in our vans, for the Sankirtan vans. It was very hard, And that was it. I didn't, Yamaraj told me he was in New Vrindavan for a couple of years and he never read a newspaper, Now, you may never read a newspaper, but you have a cell phone, you know exactly what's going on. So the whole effort is to become detached from all of that, and to become really, really interested in hearing and chanting about Krishna. I'm hearing a lecture. This is a famous verse. I think undoubtedly Vijay knows it. Others. Krishna says, Naham tishtami vaikunte yoginam hridaya shiva Yatra gayanti man bhakta tatta tishnami now. Those last two lines are usually sometimes reversed. I'm not in Vaikuntha. What? I'm not in the heart of the meditating yogis. But wherever my devotees are glorifying me, that's where I stay. So that feeling the presence of Krishna in a kirtan, which is like the essence of hearing and chanting, right? You chant, I hear, I chant, you hear. But also, it's so nice to hear you do these readings, right? You're reading books regularly upstairs here. Is that what you do? Just to read Prabhupada's books together. Is it glorious? And you can see how happy that must make him. He was always worried. Are you reading my books? There's one say, well, Prabhupada, we're doing so much. We're going out, doing all. We don't have time. Then he said, what is the use? What is the use? The distribution and the study of the books go together. And one feeds the other. If you read the books, you become enlivened by the information. You can give it out. You can preach from it. It's wonderful. So that becomes fully satisfying. You don't want to stop. Like you ever read the Anjali Leela? Lord Chaitanya would get together. They would go all night. Then finally the sun would rise, and you had to perform some morning duties at end the session. This is the taste that can be cultivated and we have such a wealth of books now. Of course, Prabhupada's books are the essence; they're completely satisfying. But the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is available; has been translated. Such beautiful verses. I remember I memorized one, and the reason I memorized it because there was a little mistake in the translation. So I said, "Wait a minute!" So I wrote Bhanu Swami about it. Just describing Krishna, it was the maternal ras, the description of maternal ras. It says, Kvanata kanaka kinkani kalapam, smitamukha mudra-nasika gramuktam, kadajata navanita pindamangre, tanayamaveksha nananda patni. Just that word, nananda patni. Nananda means to what is it called? Ecstasize. Did you know that word? Ecstasize. To become ecstatic or to make someone else ecstatic. Don't we need that word? I think when I learned it, I said, we need to get that, use that word. So, just seeing her son crawl toward her, this is a Kvanata kanaka kinkani kalapam. So he's got this bells attached, and it's a circle on his waist. And as he's crawling, they're tinkling very beautifully. Golden bells. Kvanata kanaka kinkani kalapam. Smita mukham. Who can tell me what that means? Come on, Amoga. Smita mukham. Smiling face. He's got a beautiful smile. Ujjala nasika agra muktam. Now, muktam, you think it has something to do with liberation, and that was the mistake in the translation. But no, it means pearl. He's got a beautiful pearl affixed to the tip of his nose. That's basically all he's wearing. Those bells and that pearl. And he's crawling, told his mother. The Kvanata kanaka kinkani kalapam, smita mukham, smiling, ujjvala, shining, nasika agramuktam, pearl on his tip. And then kadadrita in his hand. Notice all the K's. Kadadrita in his hand, he's holding, what do you think he's got in his hand? There's probably 100 million little murtis of this in what is it? No. More basic. Butterball. A fresh butterball. Kadajata navanita. You ever wonder what navanita means? Fresh butter. Navanita pindam agre. Agre means she's in front of his mother. Agre taniyamaveksha. Seeing her son this way, nananda patni. Mother Yashoda became filled with bliss. It's just a whole meditation, one little verse like that. Now, you can read it, and that's why I try to put these into poems. I didn't put this one in a poem because it's such a beautiful, and it's just one little picture of Krishna. But for devotees, it can be so satisfying to hear these and so many others. The Krishna Karanamrita, the Chaitanya Charitamrita, all of these, and that's where you get fully satisfied. You don't need fancy clothes. You don't need the other sex. Who cares? You're fully satisfied, and that is what Prabhupada wanted us to be: fully satisfied with kirtan, with preaching, with service, with all the things that we do. There's such juice in it. It's rasa. So and then We don't need to, pray to Lakshmi Narayan to please provide this, please provide this. We don't have to have that, worry that. We pray to Radha Krishna, Hare Krishna. Please give me pure love for you. Pashapala Vadinyanandana Vadametang Maharati He Yuvam Babatu Panayo Bhave Babature Vabadam Bhujeshume. Rupa Goswami prays. O Radha Krishna, children of the best of cowherd men, this single boon I beg from you again and yet again. In all the countless births my endless sins will make me meet. Let all my love flow toward your luscious, lustrous lotus feet. Hare Krishna. What's not to like? Any questions? Comments? Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you so much for a wonderful class.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Glory to Prabhupada.
In the purport it says that Lord Vishnu stays with his eternal consort Lakshmi within the hearts of all living entities, and they are not endowed with the opulence of Lord Vishnu. So, is that...
Because non-devotees do not realize that Lord Vishnu stays. You got to read from the beginning of the sentence. Because non-devotees do not realize that Lord Vishnu stays with his eternal consort Lakshmi within the heart of all living entities. They, the non-devotees, are not endowed with the opulence of Lord Vishnu.
Yeah, that's the whole thing.
Okay.
So I just want to make sure that I understand this correctly. So within the heart of all living entities, there's also, besides Paramatma, there's also the consort. There's also Lakshmi Devi there present.
Yeah, wherever there's Vishnu, there's Lakshmi.
It's just we always see that. We always see that the Paramatma is just, by himself alone, nothing else.
Well,
even the picture
Prabhupada says it.
But that's the correct understanding. So whenever there's Vishnu, there's always
yeah. There the idea is Prabhupada is saying, I don't know if he says it in his book, is that don't try to keep Lakshmi without Vishnu. That's demonic. That's the whole idea of the demons. They want to separate Lakshmi from Vishnu. They want to separate the money and have the wealth and have the opulence, but they don't want to share it with Vishnu. They don't want to do it as devotional service, So we have to always remember that they're there together, and we can worship them there together. Because if someone is wanting to go to Vaikuntha, is aiming to go to Vaikuntha, they're worshiping Lakshmi Narayan. So one should try to remember them at all times, and that means also remember them within the heart, as they're. So there.
And what would be the function of the consort Lakshmi Devi in the heart?
What would be the function? She's there to bestow all kinds of opulences on you if you're ready to worship her along with her husband. In other words, if you're in the mood of service, then you can get blessed by Lakshmi. But we want to get blessed by the original Lakshmi, Radharani. She's the source of all the Lakshmis, all the queens, all the other gopis, everyone. They're all expansions. So we have the prayers of Radharani. Munindra Vinda Banditeji Loka Shoga Harani Pasanna Bhakta Pankaji Nakunjabu Vilasani Prajanna Bananandani Prajanna Suna Sangate Kadaka Dishishi Amanka Pakatak Bhajanam. I know that. This is the first verse of the Radha Kripaka Taksha Stavaraj. It was composed by Lord Shiva. And it's a very powerful prayer. And it's just describing Radharani, Munindra Vinda Bandite, all the great munis, they bow down to you. Triloka Shoka Harani, you deliver all the three worlds. Pasanna Bhakta Pankaje, Nakunjabu Vilasani. You have a beautiful smiling lotus face, Pasanna Bhakta Pankaje, Nakunjabu Vilasani, and you enjoy pastimes with Krishna in the kunjas we sing every morning. The gardens and groves of Vrindavan. The Kunjabu Vilasani, Muninda Binda Bandite Chiloka Shoka Harini. You take away the shoka, the lamentation of all three worlds. Pasanna Bhakta Pankaje, Nakunjabu Vilasani. Brajendra Bhanunandini, you're the daughter of Vrishabhanu, who's also one of the Indras, one of the lords of Vrindavan. Vrajendra Sangate, and you always like to associate with the son of Nanda Maharaj. Kadaka dishishi aman kripaka taksha bhajanam. When will you cast your merciful sidelong glance upon me? That's the ardent desire of the real devotees. And there's so many palashrutis for this one. You know, if you stand in Radha Kund up to the waist or the chest or the neck, and you chant this, there's 12 verses that size. If you chant them 100 times, then you get Radha Bhav. Not so easy. There were a couple of devotees, I won't name any names, who learned about this. They were each of them was my roommate at different times, and I gave it to them. And says, "Oh, let's go to Radha Kund and chant." And they tried as hard as they could. They couldn't get there. They could not do it. There were all these impediments somehow or other that they weren't able to get it to mic. They were, yeah. I don't even know if they were able to chant it once. Yeah. Anyway, it's not so easy.
I heard about one devotee who he had Radha Kripaka Daksha Savaraj. He had it, you know, on paper. He went to Radha Kund, and he was sitting there chest deep in Radha Kund, and he recited the whole thing.
100 times?
I'm pretty sure, yeah. I heard this in a lecture, and then he went back. He wasn't feeling Radha Bhav, so then he went back to the bank, and he realized he left one of the pages there on the bank.
Oh no! Yeah, it's not so easy. I chanted it once. It doesn't say you have to do it at at the same time. So I got 99 more to go. And there's also those turtles that come in for you, right? You got to be not so easy. But that's there's. Was it Bhakti Bringa Govinda Swami? Did you hear the kirtan he did in Doha? Where is that place in the Middle East where they all go? Dubai. Yeah, I liked his kirtans. I listened in, and he was chanting these one after another. They would chant them together. Everyone had a cell phone; they could read it, and then they do a little kirtan, and the next verse like that. It was impressive. I'm not going to say anything more about it. It's amazing. Okay, if there's no further comment or questions. Oh, there we have. Govardhan Prabhu.
Thank you, Drew. You mentioned newspapers, and I said this before in my class. There's an old man in Balboa Park. He always has like a fresh newspaper every day.
Oh, yeah?
So when he comes back, I said, are there any good news in the newspaper? He said, no. I said, wait, there's one. The women's Portugal soccer team made it to the final. So that was the only good news that he could get from the newspaper.
Yeah.
Well, they beat Qatar in the quarterfinals.
All right. We apologize. There's a verse by Lord Brahma that I like to chant because it's exactly pertinent to this. He's describing, I think it's the description of the kingdom of God in the third canto, and he's describing at one point who gets to go, who doesn't get to go to Vaikuntha. Okay, this is the one, right? Who doesn't go? Okay, yan na vrajant agabado vachananuvara chinvandihenya vishaya kukata matigni yastu shita hatabagaya nibarata saras tang chapanta shadaneshuta maksohanta. You know this one, Amoga? Oh, we should all learn it. So here's who doesn't get to go. Yan Navrajanti. They don't go. Agabador, the destroyer of all sin. That's the name for Krishna, or killer of Agasura. Agabador, Rachananuvara, a creation of words. In other words, some written words or something you hear. Rachananuvara. Trinvandi, they hear. Trinvandiye anya vishaya kukatamadi. Besides that which glorifies Agabida, which glorifies Krishna. In other words, kukata, which he calls matigni, the destroyer of one's intelligence. Yastu shuta hatabagaya. Those who hear that regularly, hatabagaya, they lose all good fortune. Hatabagaya. Yastu shuta hatabagaya nibar ata saras. Ata saras means that the saras is the essence, you see? And ata means steals away. It takes away your interest in the essence of life. It destroys your spiritual impetus, you know. Tang, all those topics, and you're into Chapandis throw you down. Ashadaneshu, where you have no shelter. Tang tang chapandachadev tamaksu hanta, into the darkness, into the hell. And then the last word is hanta, alas. You know. So this is it's all moving. If you think all of this the craziness that's going on, it's all moving on kukata. The propaganda and dogma and you know what I'm saying? It's disinformation, misinformation, which is destroying people's intelligence and making them believe in all kinds of stuff that doesn't exist, right? The big lie. They don't know. The biggest lie is Maya. Maya's she's also an agent. If we want that you can enjoy your senses, you can dominate you, this and that. So it's all a question of what you hear and what you chant and what you believe, what you treasure in terms of intelligence. And only in human life. The lower animals, we can join them. That's why this Neha Prakashana Soti is so important. This verse, what is it, 40? I think 40, second chapter. Neha Brahmanashati pratyavayana vidyate sopamatpasya dharmasa trayate mahato bayat. In this practice, Krishna consciousness, there's low loss of diminution. And even a little advancement on this path can protect one from the most fearful type of danger. That's why hopefully we'll get that. That's what Prabhupada meant. And in the word by words, bayat means not fear, but danger. And so it also means that in the dictionary. So what is the greatest danger? To lose the human form of life, And that's what, if you don't make any advancement on the Krishna consciousness, that's what it is. And people don't know. So we have to tell them. Thank you very much. All glory to Srila Prabhupada.